Happy Thursday, you guys. I'm so excited to talk to this author because she is extremely well published and she has 16 titles out. I see you in the chat. Oh.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yep. You're sideways. Can you see?
Let me go the other way then. I'm not I feel really old right now.
Why?
My 14-year-old son is at a basketball game and I'm like, I need you here to help me with technology. I'm okay at Instagram, but like this is my first live, so you're
well,
it, girl.
thank you for being on mine. Welcome to Let's Go Live. I'm Jujamara and I have with me contemporary cowboy and mountain man, Engrid Eaves. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, I am excited to talk to you because I was doing a deep dive and kind of stalking you online, and you have a lot of titles.
I do. Yeah, I will say, in all fairness, I write short, so it's been easier to do that. I write between like 20 to 50,000 words. So yeah, but
Okay.
I started writing, I published my first book at the end of January, so I'm kind of new.
Is that considered short stories or no on Amazon?
On Amazon, they would classify it like 20K would be like a 2-hour read, I think.
Oh, okay.
Which is what I was originally trying to go for. But I'm kind of long-winded. I can't help myself. And I do find that my readers like the longer books. So.
Oh, I was just about to say, I find it harder to write a short story and get all the elements in than it is to write longer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's kind of why I did this to myself. I'm a little bit of a masochist. I was originally working on a series that's like 80,000 words, you know, somewhere around there. But I just felt like I needed more practice with storycraft and really forcing my, not being wordy because I come out of academia.
Oh,
and so it's been, it's been like removing 10 years of brainwashing of like how to write. And it's like, I can't put a footnote in this book, damn it, So, yeah. So I've really been trying to challenge myself this year and really get to the bare bones of what makes a great romance. But I do feel like my sweet spot is probably 30 to 40,000 at this point. Okay. So,
but that's still, challenging. You are in the presence of a very wordy, very lengthy, like I want to over explain everything to you probably like 5 times. So that's what kind of I am.
I can relate.
My developmental editor just joined. She's such a doll, but she is the one I'm like, okay, is it too much? And so I just sent her kind of my list of like, okay, what is wrong with me as a writer in this next series that I'm launching in 2025? What are we fixing?
That's going to be a fun list to look at, right? I was thinking, and I know that you're interviewing me, but I'd love to ask you about this. What is it about? And I mean, I hope it's not just me, but the books that I love the most, the times where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best writing I've ever done. Like the passages I love, all have to go. My readers are just like, bleh.
Oh, they don't find that they don't love the same spots you do?
I think they do love some of the same spots, but it's almost like, and maybe it has to do with the abundance mindset and, kind of getting too attached to a certain outcome. That might be what it is, I guess, like vibe and energy wise. But the books where I'm like, I am so in love with this book, the readers are like, it's okay.
I find it is interesting when you write characters. And so in 2023, I kind of did this thing also with my developmental editor, and I'm like, what's wrong with my writing? And I kind of re-engineered a lot of things, and I did the same thing again this year. And it's fascinating because I have characters that people either love or they hate. There is no in between. I have a male character in one series and a female character in another. And I think it's the ultimate compliment because you're like, I can't stand her. And so I know I've done a good job as a writer because I've made her so real, they hate her.
Well, and isn't there something too, like I get the feeling that there's a lot less, how do I put this? A lot less tolerance for the female characters to be out of line in any way, you know, like the bad girl or the girl who's too demanding, or, you know, that's an interesting kind of conundrum, really.
Well, and it's a good point that you make because I have one character who's very aggressive. And she tends to be like, she kind of slaps a lot. And so I have a friend who, yeah, next, you know, she's, I hate to say this, but I did pattern her off of my friend who she will grab you. She's touchy.
Mm-hmm.
You say something, she's the first one to slap you. And so I kind of patterned her. And I've had readers like, no, she's borderline abusive.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. But not boring. I mean, come on.
Oh, no. Yeah. Her name is Bex Fartley, and she is not boring.
You know, and that's the thing. It's interesting to see what the reviewers have to say, what readers have to say. And I think that's all we can really offer ultimately is something that's not boring. And I mean, if they read the whole thing and it's got their attention, we're halfway there, even if they hate them all, you know?
Yeah. Just don't leave a 2-star review, please.
Yeah, seriously.
To pivot back to you on this interview, what made you decide I'm contemporary cowboy and mountain men romance? I love, love, love how niche that is. And when I was, again, doing my research on you, your covers are fantastic. They have like the mountains and they have the cowboy or the mountain man. You have the 2 different series going on. So start there. Why so niche? I love it.
Well, thank you. I make my own covers, so that's so validating. I appreciate it.
They're great.
Well, my books are set in the Sierra Nevada mountains, which are in my backyard. Oh. So I actually live 6 miles from what you would call a quasi ghost town. It's Virginia City, Nevada.
Everybody.
It's where like
there's even dance halls named after Virginia City.
Yes, yeah, and that was kind of like loosely the setting of Bonanza, you know. Not that I'm a huge Bonanza fan, so don't ask me anything about Bonanza. But
I'm too young to know what you're talking about.
That wink, wink. For me, I'm talking for me.
Girl, yeah. I wish I was too young. I'd be like, what are you talking about? No, I know exactly.
What? But anyhow, so I originally started out writing about mountain men because I was obsessed with reading mountain men books. And a funny thing happened. My mountain men, you know, you start writing the character and they keep grabbing like a cowboy hat to put on, or their boots are by the door. And it's like, especially my first guy, he was a Russian mountain man, Maxim. Ooh. And it's like, you're killing me, dude. You've got hats on the wall. You keep wanting to put a hat on. You've got boots. You've got buckles. Like, and me being the dumb writer, it took me a while. You know, my characters are like, we're leading her by the hand. We hope she figures this out.
Yep.
So eventually I made peace with it. I'm from cowboy country. I mean, my high school had a rodeo team. My grandpa was a cowboy.
No way. So it's in your blood.
It's absolutely in my blood. And so I hate to say this, but it was just too normal for me to want to write about it. You know, and then I'm like, I start writing and they're all wearing cowboy hats and I'm looking into it and it's like, no, this is cool. And now I think like cowboys are the sexiest thing. And it's like, well, hello, you've been around them your whole life. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, they are. There's a misnomer. I'm in Houston, Texas, and people used to always think like, oh, do you ride your horse to school or the bunch of cowboys? I'm like, we are so international. If you see someone that wears a cowboy hat or says ma'am in Houston, that is rare. But you have a fan in here, absolutely zero complaints about them all being different fonts of cowboys.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Oh my gosh. Hello, hello.
So how many books were you in before you decided like, okay, well, this is my subgenre that I'm going to be in. This is my world I created.
I figured it out by book 3 because at that point we were on to the brother Christian. He was the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
And my first 3 books I released very quickly back to back. So the first book, I had to kind of go back in and make some changes. I mean, it was the first book I've ever written to be published. Mm-hmm. I wrote a lot of books before that I never want to have see the light of day.
Practice ones.
Yeah, and really the emphasis on practice. So anyhow, by Christian, I mean, they're all riding horses. We're doing horseback rescues. We're talking to the brother who's a professional bull rider. Mm-hmm. It's in my face at this point. It's like, okay, so I'm going to go back and rework the covers. And, to be fair, not all of the brothers are cowboy mountain men. The second guy, Logan, he's a search and rescue guy. And I would call him more just a mountain man, although he'd put on a hat for his woman because she likes him. So, yeah, but I would say most of them are.
He completely fits because it's not like you're putting him in like LA in a business suit as a lawyer or something.
Exactly. And so kind of the basis for the whole series, it's called the Rough and Ready series. And there really is a Rough and Ready California. Although I played around with the geography of it. I wanted it to be closer to Tahoe and, like the cold weather, the high mountains. But anyhow, so my grandpa had lived in near Rough and Ready later in his life. And he used to take us there. And it's the funniest little place. They flew their own flag because they didn't want to be a part of the United States. I can't remember. It has something to do with they hadn't been brought in properly with the Republic of California, and they were upset with it. So they had their own flag. And, I just love weird little small town stories like this.
Mm-hmm. Then you
oh my gosh. Yeah. And so, but then the other things that kind of got me going with the series, my grandpa and grandma, he was a farmer. He was a cowboy. He had a dairy farm, and then he raised Appaloosas and American Paints. And they were originally in Colorado, but he's from South Dakota. We had like family in Deadwood, the whole 9 yards. So anyhow, my grandma and grandpa helped raise over 50 foster children. Yeah. It's absolutely, I mean, 50. Yeah. They had an album with all the kids' pictures, and that always just really stuck with me. So when I got older, I started working with foster kids.
So you do too? Because
I don't raise them, and I don't do it anymore, but I used to work with them. I was a psychosocial rehab worker. And so I worked with all these kids, and I did it for 2 years before I had my son. Mm-hmm. And these kids were very troubled. I mean, it was like I was going into foster homes, dealing with people, little kids that were criminals already. I mean, I hate to label them as such, but very violent, very different emotional types of issues, things like that. I loved them. They were amazing. I've had some contact me years later, but I've always wondered what happened to them. And so then I was thinking about this series, and it's like, it's got to be foster boys. It's got to be the worst of the worst. Like, this is your last step before prison.
Wow.
And it's got to be, so it's the series has a heavy element to it because they have very troubled pasts. But the overarching theme with everything I will probably ever write is, redemption through love.
Yeah.
And just, especially the less connected we get with technology and all of the things going on now, mm-hmm. the more we need that connection with each other, and we can't give up on each other. I feel like sometimes it's so easy to say, oh, this person's a narcissist, or this, this person's psychotic, or blah, blah. But it's like, they're human beings. They can't be discarded. We've got to try to find a way, to help them. They need to do better. So that's kind of where this all came from.
Yeah, we're quick nowadays to get out our label maker and print out someone's label and stick it on them. And I'm just not that type of person. So I love that you said redemption through love, because humanity needs love, acceptance, and it's basic human needs, touch, love, acceptance, that kind of thing. And I think the world today is really divisive, and I'm hoping that, that we can turn the tide somehow. I don't know how, but that it will happen. So I do love that. I have a dark series that I have some similar elements to yours, in that they have a very troubled past, but everyone is lovable.
Is it the Canyon series?
Yeah, the Canyon series. So it's out of
I really want to read it.
Canyon City, Colorado. Ooh, don't go in blind. There's tons of trigger warnings. And I think when you get to Isla, which is book 4, hers is the darkest story. It's most tragic. And so there's someone to love her too.
Yeah, it's so important in this day. And, you know, you can find a million articles about the red flags of a narcissist or the red flags of all of these different issues and why you should just get rid of them. And I'm not saying you want to be around a narcissist. I've had my dealings with them in the past, but where are the articles how to not be a narcissist and how to try to turn over a new leaf and be better? So that's kind of underneath it all.
Well, I'm convinced that your parents, your grandparents are definitely in heaven after, you know, fostering 50 children, because you got to think that they've experienced in their direct house the worst of the worst, the most traumatic and horrible past these children have lived.
Yeah, absolutely. And when that trigger gets, when a kid gets triggered into survival mode, especially very young, and you have attachment issues, it brings out a really ugly side, you know, and a lot of underlying trust issues. And, you know, I hate to say this, all the juicy things we like to talk about in the, you know, their original wounds and, you know, all of that when we're writing a romance and healing them. So it all works out in the long run, you know.
If only it were that simple, right? If we could just have like the world in a romance book and it all work out for their betterment, but
yeah, I
would love that. Wave one for that. And congratulations on the new release.
Oh, I'm so excited about this one. Thank you.
So do you want to talk about that?
So this is called Gifted to the Mountain Man. And this is loosely related to my main series, Rough and Ready Country. And so in true holiday spirit, we're kind of wrapping up the human trafficking ring that had happened in the previous book and the individuals who were saved from that. So I say that very sarcastically. I was writing the book going, this is supposed to be a cozy Christmas cabin. So like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But I just really wanted to write about these characters.
Yeah.
So basically you have Shelby, who she's from a reservation, a local reservation. I called it the Three Nations Reservation. And she had, through an abusive boyfriend who was a trucker, got tied up in human trafficking and didn't realize it. And this kind of was a way to talk about the missing and murdered Indigenous women's crisis that nobody seems to be talking about and is absolutely horrific. I mean, Yellowstone loosely touched on it in one season, but not in any way that really explained what was going on in the storyline. So anyhow, she gets rescued by a guy who's from Afghanistan. He was a combat interpreter with American forces. He's from a group of people that are to this day being persecuted in Afghanistan, the Hazara. Yeah. He also, through his experiences, ended up becoming Christian, which puts him in like 0.01% or some, or 0.1%
that region
of the population. Yeah. So he has to get out. And because of his service with America, he's eventually able to get out. But so anyhow, they end up being tied together by fate when he rescues her in this human trafficking sting. But it's the kind of thing where he knows, or he feels very strongly, that God has gifted this woman to me, but she has to heal. I can't do anything. I can't. So he waits 9 months, and he just is like, she describes him as her guardian angel, and he's just in the back watching and taking care of her because she still has to testify. She's still in danger. Witnesses are dying, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I love the book, and he is an unlikely hero, but he's like the ultimate mountain man, because like Afghanistan is like the OG mountain men of the world. So, you know.
Yeah, when Russia abandoned their conflict there, and then we did, you got to think, that's pretty challenging. So she said, I honestly think that this is why Rough and Ready is such a good series, because most writers take foster background stories and make them the problematic character. It's such a breath of fresh air to read foster children coming out on the other end in a positive light.
Yay.
Yay. Congratulations, because that means you did it well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Means a lot to me because that's the whole point. That, that sums it up right there.
Beautiful comment. So tell me, where did you get that idea from though? Because it is very dark themes that you're talking about, and it is a Christmas story. So where did all that come from?
Well, like I said, it came from the previous book, Love at First Night, and that is set more largely on the reservation, and Shelby is friends with the female main character, Roxy. And Roxy ends up being saved by a friend of Farzad, who is the Afghan guy in this more recent book. So we'd set the groundwork. We had the basis for it. And I will say there's a lot of cozy cabin Christmas cuteness in there too. So don't get scared away from the book, but that's kind of where it came out of. And I've watched a lot of documentaries and things about the Afghan interpreters that got left behind. And it's horrible, and some have gotten out, but it's really horrible. And then I've known for a while about the Hazara genocide that's going on, which is, if you remember National Geographic, there was that image, I think she was like 12 or 14, of that beautifully arresting woman. She had like a head covering and she had the most vibrant eyes.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
I do. She was young. Yeah, she was definitely younger.
And that is the people group, the Hazara. So, yeah, so that's kind of where that came from. But I have a PhD in cultural geography, so I always circle back to culture. I can't help it. I love culture. I'm obsessed with it. I used to be a travel writer. So I kind of do keep coming back to that, although not in all of my books.
I feel like you've lived like 4 lives already.
It feels like it sometimes, and not in the best way, But I was one of those people who I always wanted to write. There's nothing else I ever wanted to do.
Oh.
But over the years through education, came to believe that there was no way to ever make money at it. So then I started getting degrees. And if I think back and psychoanalyze myself, these degrees that I got were, I guess, kind of to set me up to fail and eventually go into writing. So, I mean, and I guess fail is a strong word because I still do the things that I got my degrees in, but I have an undergrad degree in classical music performance on the double bass.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
It's like underwater basket weaving, basically. So I still play with a professional orchestra and do that kind of thing. And that's why some of my books have musicians in them. And I'd like to do more with musicians. I have my master's degree in French literature because I wanted to be a writer, but I wouldn't admit it at that point. So I'm going to, and I used to live in France. So it's like, I could speak French and stuff. And then, the cultural geography thing. So, but all of this, I look back on it. I don't regret any of it, but it was kind of a waste of time.
Not at all. How many degrees do you have?
I have 3.
Wow, and they're so diverse, and it's not like you had like one degree and you just got your master's and then your PhD in it. You're like, I'm just going to do all these, and they're so varied.
Yeah, I've got one of those brains that just can't stay on anything too long. It's probably like ADHD. Honestly, I've never been, diagnosed with it, but I have a lot of trouble staying on one thing. So that would also explain the shorter lengths of my books. But yeah.
Why is it that you get bored with your own stories, or like you're ready to release them and move on to the next story?
That's an interesting question. I think I just get bored with things in general. I will say I would like to spend longer with my characters. So, I mean, it's actually pretty hard to let go. And I've been doing the rapid release thing, or as close as I can get to it. But one of the hardest parts about rapid release is I need like a week to mourn being done with a set of characters.
Yeah.
Even though, I have the same world and we're coming, but it's like, oh my gosh. And, so I actually think that I could get into the full length or more full-length books and be fine and not get bored. But there'd be a lot of plot points and a lot of, you know, background stuff going on, and, you know, cultural things, and kind of how my shorts are now. So
I understand about the morning. I have a series that is finished, and you know, my next book comes out, and that'll be the end of that second series. And I have 2 new series coming out in 25. So I miss my characters. What I've decided to do is just start doing bonus scenes and hanging them on my website. And so they're not, you know, for sale. They're just like a newsletter sign up. But then that way, I still am in their world. I get to go back and visit them at the holidays.
That's awesome. I love that idea. Yeah, I mean, I do bonus scenes that tease people to come to my website and leave their email address. I do right after each book releases, but it'd be fun to come back in future years, and I need to think about that. That would be great.
So I do have a bonus scene or 2 per book, you know, just depending on, did I get it all in the book, and did I have stuff said that I need to address. But these, I'm kind of homesick for my own characters in the Canyon series. And so I'm like, I'm going to go back to that one. And then with the Cougars and Cubs, I'm thinking like, maybe I do like one big Christmas party and all the characters are there, but I don't know how I'm going to pull that off.
Oh, that could be so fun though. I know from the point of view of a reader, I would love that.
Exactly. Because, you know, they are real to our readers. And so it's just kind of like a gift that we can give to them too. So
absolutely. And
to ourselves, so that, you know, lessens the morning.
Absolutely. Because they still feel alive to me, you know, and it's funny, some characters, this is where my husband gets lost with me, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I have some characters that talk to me every single day. And I wrote about them a long time ago. It's like, they're just very strong characters the way they come through, you know?
Oh, yes, I know. I feel like if you're an author, you totally understand that there are voices in your head. But when you explain that to other people, they're like, what are you talking about? It's just you creating this. You're like, I mean, there's a bunch of us in there.
Exactly.
So let's talk about how you said rapid release. And that means a lot of things to people. Is it rapid releasing, a rapid publishing? And give us an example. Go year by year if you can.
So I only have this year that I've been publishing, and I've been trying to put out 1 to 2 books per month. So I know some people, I mean, I know like Sadie King, I think, is doing once a week or something like that. She writes a bit shorter. Sadie King.
Okay. What is she writes? Go ahead. What's her subgenre?
So she writes mountain man romance. Yeah, I think she gets into like some MC and stuff like that too.
Every week?
For a while she was doing that. I don't know if she still is, but yeah.
Those have to be short stories then.
I would say, I think like 20K for her. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, they're on the shorter side for sure. I'm doing one every month, but I would over time like to have longer works and take more time with them, because it's hard to constantly be coming up with new characters. And when you're writing in one world, it helps a lot because there's already a lot of people, and then you're just going through, and you know, it's time for the cook to have the love of his life and that kind of thing. So.
Okay, so I am fascinated by that because you've been published for a year and you have what, 16 titles?
I have 12 published, but I have some pre-orders out there. So.
Yeah, I saw your 4 up now, December, January, then you have what, a later one, something like that.
Yeah, and there's more than that. I don't have them all up yet. I have a second pen name that I just started. It's a clean pen name, and I'm heading up with 2 of my dear friends, Lily Love and M. Tate. We're heading up the Mistletoe Kisses collaboration, and now we're going on to the Valentine's Sweethearts. And so those are clean, kind of more a Hallmark feel. And it's been an interesting experiment. I enjoy it. I actually really like the clean Christmas romance I wrote, and it makes me cry. So I guess that's a good sign.
That's so sweet. So Before we get into the co-authors, take us through then how you're able to do it. Like, what is your writing schedule? Do you have editors? Do you do it all yourself? Because I know that sometimes when we have other people as part of the publishing process, we have to get on their schedule.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I've been a full-time writer since 2014.
Oh,
I was a freelancer, so I worked with, like, I wrote for magazines and small businesses and agencies and different things like that. A lot of blogging, a lot of articles, which that'll burn you out.
oh, geez, I'm sure.
That can burn you out. Yeah. So I did that for years. I still have some of those clients. I also do editing and fact checking and writing for Ripley's Believe It or Not. I've done that for years now.
Wow. Oh, that's exciting. You're such a Renaissance woman.
Well, I feel sometimes that my head's just going to spin off and fly away. It's trying to keep it. It's like, and then I go play the bass in the orchestra and it's like, oh, this is too much to think about, you know? So I would like to pare it down. But Ripley's, that I really enjoy that. And, you know, as a little kid, I was reading those books like crazy and absorbing all the facts and stuff. So
I feel like you have more than 24 hours in a day.
I'm not sleeping enough. Probably could use a little bit more sleep, but so anyhow, getting back to your question, I had the advantage of already being full-time and working from home. Mm-hmm. So that's been helpful. I had reached a point where, well, when COVID hit, it wasn't great to be a travel writer at all.
Yeah, that was a dead market.
Yeah. So, and I hung on with a lot of those clients much longer than I thought I would. But just my situation and what's going on, I didn't want to travel all the time. Yeah. So I was looking for some different things anyways. And then I had one of my bigger clients, we ended up kind of parting ways. And that was fantastic in the long run because it opened up the space to finally do what I've always wanted to do, but found a million reasons not to. And so I probably am fitting too many things into 24 hours. I have to admit, I underestimated how busy writers are, you know, fiction writers. It's absolutely insane. All the social media and the, you know, the links. And I started out wide and all the different publishing places. I finally went to KU just because I was like, I don't need to have to deal with Draft Digital and Barnes & Noble and Google Play. I'll get back to wide, but I just needed some streamlining to happen.
Yeah.
Because it's insane. I don't know how, I still don't know how you guys do it, and I'm trying, you know?
Well, I'll let you know, sometimes I'm a wide author. I don't have anything in KU. And so, yeah, sometimes you forget and you assume that you put it on Google Play or a Streetlib, and then you go out there and you're like, huh, I did not do that. And then half your series is missing. You're like, okay, I should probably have a spreadsheet for all this. Yeah, I should have a system in place to catch this. And then do you write so much per day, or how long does it take you? Because you said your books are anywhere from what, 20 to, you said what, 50?
Some of them are pretty close to 50. Yeah. I try to write every day. It can be difficult sometimes because I'm so deadline driven in my other work that I do that sometimes I just have to clear the plate, and especially like if I'm doing fact checking, that has to happen immediately. Oh. And, you know, so yeah, so I'll have to clear the plate for things like that. But I do try to write daily, and a 20,000 word book could take me anywhere from 3 to 5 days probably. And yeah, but then, you know, with some hardcore revisions after that, I feel I'm trying so hard to be a plotter, but there's a part of me that's this total pantser still, and I don't think it'll ever change. So then I send my book out to 2 beta readers, and sometimes it comes back and it's like good to go. And then sometimes it comes back and it's like, well, how do we nicely say you need to rewrite a third of your book? Or, you know.
Isn't that the truth? I am marvel though, if you can do 20,000 words in 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that they're all beautiful words, but it's I could get a story down. And then I know a lot of writers really like the writing process. I do to a degree, but what I love is editing.
Oh my.
You know, and really getting, I know it's so weird, but I am an editor. I do a lot of editing, so that's probably part of it. But it's in the editing process for me that it's like, oh, that, you know, that's where I'm going to put this gorgeous romantic line. And this is what's, you know, I get a better sense of the motivation of the characters. It just gets tightened up.
Yeah.
And you really flesh it out at that point. It's like going from a sketch to an oil painting.
Mm-hmm.
And I love, that's the part of the process I'm hooked on. So.
Okay, one, you are a special little June bug because you said you like editing.
I know, but I don't mean like, you know, commas and stuff, whatever. I don't dislike it either, but more like just really tightening up the writing, really having it come together, really getting that final professional version. Yeah, I like it.
There's one comment. Yes, Sky, we're going to post this on both of our Instagram channels. So I know you can't stay, but you can watch the whole rest of it later.
Sky is one of the gals that I'm in that has organized the collab with me for the clean romances. And she writes as Lily Love as well. And yes, blasphemy on the editing part. I don't confess this often. I don't.
Agree, Sky. Editing is the part I dread. I have two editors. So I have two editors, a developmental and then a line, and then I have 3 alpha readers. And so I have everyone looking at my story because I'm just so, you know, what lives in your head doesn't always make it to paper.
Exactly.
And yet you assume that you've put it on paper, and then someone's like, where did this come from? You're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had one story that the beta reader caught me on it. The hero, I mean, after this whole long drawn out, like all these reasons he couldn't be with her, he finally proposes at the end. And she never says yes or no. You're like, I went back and, you know, I mean, thank God she caught that and I fixed it. But it's like, okay, that is kind of a big error right there.
That's a huge pothole. Yeah. Okay, so again, I keep going back to this because I'm fascinated. You have put out 16 books. Now you have this collaboration. So are you going to continue with your already impressive workload and the collaboration? Like, how will that work?
That's a very interesting question. And it's one that my co-collaborators and I talk about a lot because it was an odd way that we got into doing this collaboration in the first place. We were we're in a group called Writing Insta Love on Facebook, and there were a lot of clean romance writers talking about, I think, a lack of collaborations or something like that. And so I said, well, you guys really need to organize a collaboration. It would be fantastic, like for Christmas or something. And then Sky was looking, she was starting her clean pen, and she went through it very methodically and had a Patreon. I think she still does, where she's documenting it. It's really fascinating how she's documenting this journey into writing clean, but still keeping her steamy pens. And then M got into it with us as well. And we decided, hey, we're going to head up this whole thing. So we, you know, came up with the collaboration. Sky is the major one that has done the organizational framework and everything. But we get it all done and up. And then we had 38 authors join, which 35 because we're in it too. I know. I know. It's called Mistletoe Kisses, and it's coming out now. Every day we have a release. And so we get this all going, and then we're just sitting there on Facebook talking to each other going, you know, I write steamy, right? And they're like, yeah, we write steamy, we write erotica. And so then I'm sitting there going, how am I gonna, I've never even written a clean romance. I don't know, which I found it hard to land, you know, like because you know where to land with a steamy romance. I'm like, how do I land this book at the end and feel satisfied about it? But you know, it worked out.
Oh yeah, because I know it's always like kiss and the door closes, but they can't all be the same kiss at the end and door closed. I mean, we don't write all the same spicy scenes.
Exactly. Yeah, and I do a lot of cursing in my steamy books as well. So that was the hardest part for me. I remember I even told Sky and Em, I said, I can't do this if I can't curse.
I know.
Which I've been pretty good on this podcast. I don't think I've said anything too bad. So
I know IG doesn't like it. And there's a comment from EB, clean romances are ... I could never, but good for you. No curse.
Yeah, I feel you, EB.
That, you know, I try not to curse in real life, but ooh, my books, I let it fly. I think that's my ultimate.
Well, you can't have like a former Marine, you know, I mean, one of my guys, he's a sheriff, he's a former Marine. What's he going to say? Oh gosh, darn. No.
Darn it. So is the idea that there is an author per day that puts out per book?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And many of these authors are quite well established in the clean romance community. And so it's been fun to get to know a completely different group of authors that I would have never known. So we have, after this one, we have the Valentine Sweethearts collaboration. I believe that's 18 authors. We've taken it down because we realized after agreeing to do 38 that there's a reason why the big collabs are, you know, I mean, they can be kind of difficult to manage, especially with social media and things like that. Although it's been a wonderful experience. And then we have a Mother's Day and a Father's Day collab coming up, and we're kind of brainstorming where we're going to go from there. I still personally feel that steamy is my preferred, you know, area to write in. I'm so invested in it. And I'm sorry. I mean, like, so I write first person dual POV. And if I'm in your head the whole time, how the hell did I just get shut out of the bedroom? You know, exactly. I mean, knocking on the door. Hello, I've been with you through everything. What is going on? So yeah, that's my problem with writing clean, but I did really enjoy it. And I found you have to lean in even more to the emotional parts of it. And that was good for me. I mean, my other works are emotional as well, but you have to really get into the other stuff to, you know, have the right vibes and touch people.
Oh, yes. So let me ask you, if authors are interested, can they participate in the Mother's Day and the Father's Day collab, or is that already closed? You have plenty of authors.
So we have the forms closed at the moment, but we're still far enough out that they could definitely, I mean, feel free to direct message me through Facebook at Engrid Eaves or through Instagram. And, you know, we'll see if it's a good fit for everybody. We have to go over the expectations for the collaboration and things like that. But yeah, we would definitely still be interested in more people.
That's nice, because I'd imagine some of the authors stay with you from one collab to the next.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you can pardon my bulldog, can you hear that?
I can. No worries. I have my Weimaraner locked out of the room right now because he's terrible about, like, if I'm on the phone or something, he just starts making weird noises, and it's like, oh, I don't want people to think I'm making those noises.
Well, normally I put him away, but he has an ACL tear, and so I can't put him away because he needs to stay. But all of a sudden, he's just like gotten all this extra energy, like, oh yeah, let's go. And I'm like, what is happening? You've been a couch potato all day, so I apologize.
Oh, no worries. It's not, I can't hear it anymore. We're good.
Good. So with the titles coming out, you have your pre-orders, and those can't be moved. So how does the collab? So the collabs are just when they come up, and you can work them into your existing schedule. Is that the idea?
Yes, absolutely. And I hadn't really done too many collabs up to this point. I was focusing mainly on my own series. Now I'm in quite a few collabs for next year, and I'm very excited about every single one of them. But now it's fitting my series into the, you know, in between the collabs. So I'll have to reassess going into 2026 of how I want to do this. But it's just fun to get to know some other authors, because I have to say, before starting to get into the collabs, I really wasn't talking to a lot of other people. And since 2014, I've been working from home freelancing. So I was getting socially awkward and the whole 9 yards, you know?
Okay, well, with your rapid release schedule, you don't have time to talk to anybody, just the people that are like reside in your house and your characters. Jeez.
It's true. Yeah, my husband would give you a different side of this. He would be like, okay, she vanished, she just went away. Although he is, bless his heart, he's so supportive. I mean, he's read my books. The man has never read a romance in his life, but he started reading my books to help me in the beginning. And I shouldn't say this, but he would admit it himself. Everyone makes him cry. He loves them.
Oh, he's a soft.
So, yeah, he's like super hard and tough. He's the total grumpy everything, unless you get to be his sunshine like me.
Oh my God.
Then I get to see the other side of him.
Girl, yeah. Not only are you smart, brilliant, talented, now you're also living a romance trope.
Well, I use my inspiration, you know, for that super grumpy pain in the ass guy that one day you realize, hey, I better take another look at him.
Cut this interview short. Cut and
yeah, exactly.
Girls living a dream life.
Is married. His brother is married. I'm sorry.
Damn it. So funny. So what's next then? Are you going to stay in the contemporary cowboy and the mountain man world? Because it's literally in your blood. It's all around you. It's what you walk outside your door and see.
Yeah, I can't imagine leaving this. I'm not going to go to like mafia. I mean, there might be a mafia element that came in every now and again, but
and I see the town and that sheriff gets him.
Exactly. And I hate to say this because there's many talented authors that write this, but I'm not into the billionaire romance thing. It might be because of my own money blocks. Who knows? So I like the blue collar guys. So yeah, so the Cowboys, the Mountain Men, that's more my area.
I think when you write what you love and what you know, there's an authenticity, and they're very just genuine works, right? I mean, there's hockey romance, there's baseball, billionaires, mafia. I mean, there's so many of these subgenres. But I understand, like, if you asked me to write anything about hockey, oh, it'd be horrible. I know nothing about hockey. We don't have it. I'm in Houston. We have 3 temperatures: hot, humid, or hurricanes. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like there's so much research that has to be done because, you know, I have like one guy that's a firefighter and one that's a sheriff. And obviously I've never been any of these things. I've never been a U.S. combat interpreter in Afghanistan. I mean, there's still so much to research. So the one thing I would say is I would like to get back to more musicians because of having that classical music background, and it is really kind of an interesting world unto itself. I don't know that a lot of people want to read that into that world too much, but I think, you know, characters that are from that world are interesting.
Well, of course, with your music degree, Rockstar is huge. And then you that cute country music. Who is that cute little one that sings about cowgirls walling somebody or nothing? I heard it the other day. Yes. This cutie little pie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got an interesting kind of obsession with just performers in general and what it's like to be a performer and to be on stage and how you connect with people, and because it's such a different dynamic. So I'd love to bring more of that into my books. I have one book where it's called Possessed by the Bounty Hunter, and it ends up taking place in Nashville, and the female main character is a Black Creole woman who's a nightclub singer. And yeah, and so just kind of dealing with the idea of performing and being on stage and all of those things really interest me, kind of coming from that world.
Well, where do your ideas come from? Yeah, bounty hunters are sexy.
Yeah, they are. And that particular one is quite sexy because he's a cowboy. So, you know, we're back to cowboys again. My ideas, I mean, here's how I would describe it. I kind of feel like I'm Harry Potter. Well, no, I'm more like Voldemort from Harry Potter. Okay. And I've basically taken myself and put little pieces of my soul into all the different Horcruxes. So like each story has little pieces of me in them. None of them are autobiographical, of course. But or you know, sometimes it's an interesting story that I've heard or something that I mean, my one book, love at first relationship, has a black cowboy, and he's sexy as heck. Flynn, he's a lawyer, and he's just he was one of the first characters that came to me, and he stuck with me the whole time. I love that guy. But he's kind of very loosely based on some foster kids I worked with that were just brilliant. I mean, I worked with this one boy. He was 10 years old. He was a little black boy that was reading at a college level at age 10.
Oh my God.
And I thought, I didn't believe it at first, because it was like books I wouldn't even read. And this kid was so smart that you would ask him, who's your favorite president? And he'd say, well, it was so-and-so who ran against Abraham Lincoln, but didn't win. Or, you know, like that kind of, like, he ran in this election in 18, blah, blah, blah. He didn't, you know, he was so...
He had the resources, you know, and not being in foster care, if he had the resources, can you imagine the places he could go? Wow.
It just killed me. It just killed me. Because I grew up with parents, we were quite poor, but my parents had they placed a huge value on books. But I mean, this little boy, they would make fun of him in the foster home, and there were no books anywhere, and, you know, you're nerdy and blah, blah, blah. And so, but he did go on, you know, he went on to college and he was studying political science. And I always told him, I said, you're going to become president of the United States. You are going to become president. And I believe that. I want to see that someday. So
well, I'm so glad to hear that you were pouring it into him, because we do need that, right? Especially in such a tough environment that he's grown up in.
Yeah. You know, because the foster homes are not, they're not the easiest places to grow up. I mean, it's just awful, some of the things, and you have so much against you, socioeconomics and mindset, and, you know, and just seeing what he was dealing with, and his little brother as well. But he's a fine example of overcoming. And I would be surprised if he doesn't become president someday. I mean, he's brilliant. He is absolutely brilliant.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, maybe that'll happen.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, so going back to Flynn, because I don't want this to seem weird or creepy that I'm basing, you know, books on kids that I worked with. But I just would love to know that all my kids that I did work with had a happy ending and ended up with somebody that loved them and understood them and was able to help them with their healing. And so with Flynn, I mean, he's not exactly, you know, based on the same thing, but he had a very troubled past as well. And I love seeing how he finally opens up and starts to trust and let himself fall in love.
And I love that you write diverse characters. That's reflective of life.
We need more. We need way more. I mean, and that's another area I'd be bored out of my mind, is just, I don't want to just stick with the same. I mean, I don't want to sound racist. I don't want to stick with all white people. I mean, I am white, but I'm really fascinated by other people's experiences and what they've been through, and cultural experience.
You have your degree in cultural, and Evie Slayer, she's on here, and she writes diverse characters.
Oh, awesome! I will check out your books, EB. And we have the same first initials, and yeah, because EB Silva is my clean pen, so yay!
Yeah, she has a very popular series, so definitely check hers out.
I definitely will.
So you had said that you write roughly, you can have 20,000 words done in a week, 3 to 5 days. When you go into the longer, you know, your 50,000, how long is that taking you? And then where does it go from there?
So I would say that's taking me a good 3 weeks. And even though it's, you know, theoretically you're looking at it in terms of the increased word count, and it's double. So I guess that makes sense. But it's just the plots are more intricate too. And so then everything goes to to my beta readers, and I want to give them a week with it. And then you know, ideally have a few more days to do my final edits before the pre-order. So that's kind of roughly a month when it's all said and done. But I'm still learning a lot. I mean, I hope it gets easier at some point, because I still rewrite a lot of things after they come back from the beta readers. So,
well, we all are over here struggling to get 50,000 words in NaNoWriMo, and you're like, I mean, it's 50,000 in 3 weeks. Sometimes it's rough, and Yeah, you know how many of us would love to be able to write that, Mitch?
Well, I'll tell you that Amazon, those pre-orders kick in and you're going to get it finished,
Ooh, that is the fear, because they'll cancel you fast, quick, and in a hurry.
Yes, they will. Yeah, that'll take all your pre-orders from you.
Oh, yeah, and then ban you from, I guess, what, for a year or something if you don't get them done?
Yeah, yeah. So
I've been too distracted to write that much. That is a good point. How do you deal with distractions? I mean, you said that you just started publishing. You have 12 out in 1 year, and then you have 4 in pre-order, but you've been writing for 10 years. So what made you publish now? And then how do you stay distraction free?
well, I started it was Renee Rose that really got me feeling like I could be a fiction writer, because I'd completely convinced myself it was not something I could ever do. I just didn't have the imagination for it. No. And I had that conversation with many people, even though it's all I've ever wanted to do. And it's all I spent. I mean, I had written 3 books in high school. I mean, they were terrible, but it was still kind of showing me what I should be going into, And so Renee Rose has the Right to Riches. And in that book, she was talking about the abundance mindset and talking about how you need to have faith and believe in what you want, and to just start living like you already have it. And
Wait, your sound cut out.
can you hear me?
Okay, there you're back. You're back.
Yeah, I got a battery warning on my phone, but I think we're good. So
yeah. Okay. Well, we only have a few minutes left before IG will cut us off anyway. So you were saying about the abundance mindset and to live like you already are it.
Yeah. And so once I started thinking about living once I allowed myself to think about goals I'd had so long ago, that really, I just had so many people crush my dreams. And some people are really strong about not letting that happen, but I wasn't one of them. I'm an INFJ, so I worry a little too much about what other people think.
Yes.
But when I started allowing myself to even have that headspace again, and realize how much I still wanted it more than anything, that kind of started moving the ball for me. But I spent a lot of time researching, and that's how I got to doing the Instalub, the shorter writing, to get started.
Yeah.
And, I have to say, as a musician, I was always told that the people that become the most successful musicians can't imagine doing anything else with their life.
Nice.
And for me, that was weird, because I could.
Oh.
For me, always. So in the background,
diverse background, geez.
Well, and like with music, it's always like, I really want to be a writer. I was practicing 6 to 8 hours a day in a practice room, because it is hard to be a classical musician and get in an orchestra.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I would have been writing, but I created this barrier for myself. And so I can say truly about writing, it's the only thing I can't imagine not doing, even though I wouldn't let myself do it in that way for so many years. It's all I want to do. So I finally understand what the musicians were saying. It's just in a different area.
Wow, nice. So I know that IG is going to cut us off, and I am so sad for that. We're going to have to do part 2 for sure.
Oh, that'd be fun. I love talking to you. I have so many questions for you. I'm like, why are we talking about me? We need to talk about you.
Well, we can talk in the DMs, but real quick, where can people find you and your books?
So I am currently in Kindle Unlimited, so Amazon's the best place to reach me. And my steamy pen name is Engrid Eaves. And then my clean pen name is E.B. Silva. I'm on Facebook with both of those handles, Instagram and TikTok as well. And yeah, I would love, DM me. I'd love to talk to people when I'm not writing.
Slide in her DMs, y'all.
That's where this conversation ends. Great.
Well, we'll try and get a rapid release. Our rapid fire questions, and then we'll see if it'll cut off or not. Okay. So do you prefer paperback or e-reader to read?
E-reader.
Are you a plotter or a pantser? We didn't even talk about that.
I'm a pantser, but I'm trying so hard to be a plotter.
It's so hard. I know I'm a pantser. Do you write in first person or third?
First,
Are you plot driven or character driven?
character driven.
Do you write alone, write with a partner, or writing sprints?
I write alone. Although I have done a few sprints, but mostly alone.
Do you outline ahead of time or are you just a discovery writer?